Hi there, it's Emily. Bernie and I want to remind you that getting together is how we grow. That's why we want you to come to the next Unreasonable Connection event. We run this video call every month, and it's a great way to connect with other co-working professionals around the world and maybe even find a spark of inspiration. Sign up using the link in the show notes, and off to you, Bernie.
Hello, folks. It is another Co-working Values podcast, and me and Emily have been missing in action a little bit because, just so much work on. And we've published a couple of episodes. One was with Alex Young from the Projects, which is about inclusive spaces and neurodiversity, which is super, super interesting. And then this week we also published Denise Broder and the Science of Flexibility report, and it's very rarely you'll hear me going, oh my God, you just got to go and read that report, but you have got to go and read that report. And we'll put a link in the show notes. And now back in the studio is Lucy. What are you known for? What would you like to be known for?
Hello, Bernie. Thank you for having me back. I think it was it last year that I was last recording with you? I have a blog called The Inclusive Coworker, so I would like to be known for that. It's all about celebrating the community first nature of co-working, and I have been chatting to some interesting co-working operators, owners, and community builders about their journeys in co. I also write content for the industry and work with some of the prop tech companies who are supplying the industry as well. And I have been building a little freelance community on the side as well. So that's something that's brewing too.
I've heard that you only have interesting people on your blog and you only work with the leading prop tech companies in the industry. Is that right?
That is true. Yeah,
that is true. There's so this. Thank you for all your effort around European Co-working Day. That was because I know I rang you up, said help, and you sort of came up with loads of stuff at short notice. So that was amazing. But with inclusion and co-working, because that do you feel anything has changed in the last year? Have we got more inclusive, less inclusive? Do people understand it more in the industry? What's your not your data enabled view, but how do you feel about inclusion in co-working?
Oh, that's a really good question, actually, because I was speaking to somebody the other day who, was kind of saying it hasn't really moved on, and kind of I don't know, because in my opinion, it depends what kind of inclusivity we're talking about. I feel like there's a lot out there at the moment about, let's say, neurodiversity. And I guess you've just said it, at the conversation you just had with Alex around neurodiversity and inclusion in workspaces. There's a lot of chat about how we can make spaces more inclusive for people who are not able to access spaces, whether that's through kind of respecting people's individualities around how they behave in spaces, and to kind of be more welcoming and comfortable in spaces. In terms, the thing that I was thinking about not being inclusive necessarily is I feel that, and maybe this is from a personal perspective, I'm a freelancer, and I, like to access spaces for ad hoc co-working, I suppose. A lot of spaces have become less affordable, let's say. And that's kind of, I don't know if that's just a London thing, because obviously I'm in my London bubble here, living in quite central location, and kind of being, if I want to co-work, I would be co-working in London. So I don't know if this is just a London thing, but we're talking about making spaces more inclusive, but perhaps not affordable. And it's not just for me as well, because I realize that I can afford certain spaces, but it's also for people who might not be able to afford that, or have those experiences and opportunities to access spaces as well. So
I think that is a real issue. There's one of my, as you probably noticed, one of my favorite things at the moment is that I feel bad saying my favorite things. One of the most important topics at the moment is wealth inequality in London, and a lot of people you and I know who deal with affordable workspace programs and hard to reach communities or underserved communities. I can never remember the right way to say it, but it's really, really tough. And there's like this huge, I know, lots of places with helicopter pads and cocktail bars are thriving, and there's 8 million people, 9 million people in London nowadays, and I cannot remember the report. There's some report I read about freelancers and how they're struggling and how it's harder to get paid than ever, and it's always hard to get paid as a freelancer, and that's like, it seems like a never-ending conversation. But
absolutely,
freelancers living hand to mouth in a cost of living crisis with everything that's going on in London is like just really gritty.
Oh, yes, I feel that. I've seen so much, especially I guess LinkedIn is where I'm at, like in order to sort of see where the conversations are. And there's been so much around that. I saw something today and it was saying somebody had pulled out, I've seen this post, and somebody had pulled out their expenses from 10 years ago, and they were saying how much things cost, like a coffee and cake costs like £1.90 or something like that. And then he said that he was a freelancer and he was paid £350 day rate. And he said that's still that is like a top end day rate for today. However, a coffee and cake is not costing £1.90 anymore, is it? So those sort of rates and the value of freelancers as well is not kind of keeping in line with the cost of living. And yeah, everyone's having to put their rates up. I understand where or maybe it's not co-working spaces necessarily, but the real estate is at where they are having to pay a lot more for their energy use or utilities, etc., etc. But yeah, we're kind of getting costed out, I guess, because there aren't spaces. And also, I think a lot of real estate brands aren't really interested in serving the freelancer, the individual. Like when I've been running these community events for freelancers, we have really struggled to find affordable space that is willing to kind of welcome us, I guess. Like we have found that, when we kind of relaunched it at the start of the year, and we got a really good deal, I think, because it was really quiet in January, like coming out of Christmas, and I guess that run down to Christmas as well, it's quite a quiet period. So we got a great deal where we brought 20 people in the space, but then a few months later we were faced with, we're going to stick our prices up. We don't really value that community element, which is a shame, really.
Yeah, that when I see you doing that freelancer meetup, it reminds me of. Did you ever see something called Kindred? It's not a co-working space. It's a freelancer meetup like the one you run now.
Oh right, no, I haven't heard it.
And it was run by someone called Alex Butler, who was she was a proper freelancer, and had digital contracts and with agencies and everything. And this was like 2010.
Yeah.
And when co-working was really starting to get going in London, and she basically went to almost like what you're doing now. She went to co-working spaces. She saw these things called co-working spaces opening up and said, if I came here once a week for 4 hours in the afternoon with a group of freelancers, would you be interested? And they're like, yes. So we went to a different co-working space every afternoon, only for 4 hours, and it worked really well. It was enough time to sit down. We meet before lunch and we go for a drink afterwards. And, we basically went to the first Huckle Tree. We went to Shazia Mustafa's third place in, not third, is it third space? Third door, sorry. And Mainyard Studios, Tom Ball from Near Desk had a place in Pentonville Road. Just loads of places that were just open up all the time. And it was, but like, what is what do you think the value is of getting together as a group of freelancers nowadays? What's that?
That's such a good question.
Yeah, like, because it's important.
Yeah. I even want to respond to your first bit because it's really interesting that the spaces kind of opened up for you guys to like come in for a few hours, because let me tell you, I have been messaging all the workspaces in the Shoreditch area, and they immediately, I'll tell them what we're doing and that community piece, and they're like, yep, that's going to be £400 for 2 hours to use their space. So it's really, maybe going back to what you were saying at first, like things have changed. But anyway, the purpose of the meetups essentially came out of, I guess, like selfish need, Bernie, which was when I moved to London, which we spoke about before the we started recording. I didn't really know anyone in the sort of freelance space, or I had friends from like uni and things like that. They all had their corporate jobs, but I didn't know other people like myself who were working for multiple companies and writing and doing something, a bit more creative. So I actually joined a sort of similar concept, a meetup in Shoreditch, and I met like 3 friends through that who were doing similar things, marketing, email marketing, and like designer. And we would then meet like every Thursday at a hotel lobby and connect and co-work together. They're still like my closest friends, these people, and I feel that we have been on like a real journey together, and I've really felt that it's been, being able to like come out of the house, like go and see them, go and kind of just chat about what's going on, whether that's like a difficult client or like a win with the business, whatever it is, or even just like getting some advice on what I'm currently up to, whether, that's like, I've just done my website, can you have a look? And then, vice versa. It has been so impactful. And then I joined Workspace, TownSq, like a few kind of around that time actually, and then they brought in like another similar type of community, like freelancers who are content creators, who are podcasters. And again, like just through going into the space and meeting with them, there was just something so like powerful about like being together, chatting things through. And like then the sort of freelancer meetups kind of came out of that sort of concept. Like, if we come together, it overcomes that sort of loneliness that you feel at home when you're just working by yourself. You kind of gain confidence. That's something that me and the lady I'm running it with, Rebecca, have been talking about. It's not just about like, I don't know, leveling up in terms of skill set, but it's actually like our confidence as well grows when we're around people who are in a kind of the same boat, let's say. And when we started bringing people together, they just loved meeting one another, making friends, having a coffee, having a chat. And then we talk about something that we were all experiencing. Usually it was quite actually like personal brand marketing related, or something around like time management or something like that. So the sort of mission, if you like, of the group, which is called Creative Coworkers Collective, is to support people who are navigating freelancing, like kind of navigating that chosen path. And the community piece as well, like bringing people together, because that's always fun when we're in one space.
It's like getting around a table together is there's like on my social media, I have that picture of a group of us sitting around a table at Coworking Europe 10 years ago. And I haven't come up with anything better to put it there, but that feeling of just a group of people with their laptops open to randomly around a table, no organization, just everyone sort of rocks up and says, how are you? And starts working and chatting. I'm hesitating because I want to say that's what co-working is to me, but I don't want to say it like that. That's my favorite type of co-working, I think is what I mean to say.
I'm the same. I'm absolutely the same. Like, I'm always posting this picture from when Anna and I ran International Co-working Day 2023. And we basically organized like just a coffee and cake morning, but we, and kind of shared the message, and a load of people came in. But it was like the conversations that we just ended up, it wasn't even like, oh, we're going to have a workshop, or we're going to have like, there was no sort of icebreaker or anything like that. But the conversation around the table just ended up being so interesting. Like, everyone was sharing their sort of current challenge of what they were doing, and being a freelancer essentially, or working by themselves. And it was just that moment afterwards where we kind of all have our arms around each other. It was just really special. We also had a baking competition, which was quite fun. And it's always nice to like have some treats when you meet up as well. So that's something we always like to give people as well. And I know a lot of people like to start their day with a coffee as well. So coffee first always.
I was so annoyed that I moved to Spain as in 2022 as TownSq was really kicking off. That was that little.
You missed it. The best couple of years.
Yeah, that is like, and it was always lovely to come back and go to TownSq and see you folks there. That was like coming home. What I keep meaning to ask you, and I've got to like shoehorn it in now before it goes. As you're going around doing all this freelancing stuff, because like you're a freelancer who has this lens into the co-working industry from a sort of, I work for software suppliers and prop tech companies and like that. And then you use co-working spaces. And what is it that you think that co-working, I'm going to say, I don't want to say operators or community managers, like people who run co-working spaces, what don't you think they get about people like us who are like freelancers and consultants and running around and independent economic agents in the braving the face of 2025 London,
Well, I wonder, I don't know if this answers your question, but the first thing that comes to mind maybe with certain spaces that I've been into and the people working in them is they perhaps just see their job as a job. So I don't know whether I think about after some of the meetups that I've done and the fact that we go out of our way to be just so welcoming and hospitable to people. That is like one of our core kind of values is we want to welcome everyone into our space. It's not our space, into our community, let's say. And then after the event, no one comes up to us and is like, oh, how did that go? Whereas I guess, we're just talking about TownSq, Anna got it. She totally just got the brief. She got the assignment. She is one of the best community managers I have ever come across, because she wasn't just in it for the job or whatever. She actually lived and breathed co-working and was just super, super welcoming and special, throughout all of our experiences. She was stay, whenever we had socials afterwards, she would stay and I don't know. It was just, I've forgotten your question now, but I feel that
I forgot my question too. She Anna, and I know you're listening now, Anna. Okay.
We love you, Anna.
5 stars on Apple, please. But she when I would come back, right, I would actually be walking through from Liverpool Street on the way to Old Street to TownSq, and I'd be like, oh, there was this little feeling of I used to get driving down to Eastbourne to see my grandma. It's all going to be okay. I'm going to feel at home immediately. No matter who was in that little room, and the other thing, she just said, "Oh, how are you?" And you'd be like, "Oh my God, she just did it so well," and you felt at home immediately.
Yeah, you do. And she's always like, how are you? And I'm like, I'm fine. She's like, no, how are you really? She always gets to the bottom of things and is cares, deeply cares, which we all felt, when we were with her. We wanted to sit with Anna. We had this thing in the workspace where Anna was sat sort of opposite the door, and there was a bank of 4 desks, and it was just a fight to see who could get a desk next to Anna, which we called the cool table, and our group chat is known as the cool table. So I really miss that actually in the workspace, because we don't, a lot of us left, and it's really hard to replicate that feeling that you had of community and that sense of belonging. Everyone, sort of talks about it now and co-working, but I really felt that in that space with those people. And I'm missing that at the moment. I'm not part of a workspace at the moment. I've not found my second home. And it's just different really. So I hope that I can find it again.
You will find it again. And I can tell you how I know that, because I've had that probably every other year since I got into co-working. I've had that experience, and you think it lasts forever, but it lasts for me, it seems to last for about 6 months or a year.
Yeah.
And there's just exactly the right combination of people, and people come and go. And we had it in Mainyard Studios in 2013, and Tori would make some kind of granola hippie cake thing, and just people would make food around the table, and then it grew a bit more, which is exactly what it should have done, and that intimacy was lost. And then we had it in work hubs with the Right Club and everything, with Phil and the We Share people, and then we had it in Bathtub, the boardroom, and I can go on forever. And again in Main Yard in Mile End, when we joined Mile End really excitedly, and then COVID happened. But there was Sangeeta was in Mile End with us, and Tash would make this amazing vegan food every Thursday lunchtime. And even if I was like bleeding from a gunshot wound to the head, I would make it to the table to get Tash's food. It was just there's all these little community moments. And when you're if you have to sit down and say to someone, well, here's the blueprint for doing that, it just won't work. It's just all that pixie dust, which I know is a really annoying phrase, but that brings it all together.
Yeah, no, you're so right. It is. I think you going back to your question where you're like, oh, why do we talk about co-working so much? I think is because we've experienced such a amazing experiences in co-working spaces. I mean, I feel like I've really because before I was talking about or writing about co-working, I was sort of in the co-living industry with our friend Kate, and I never co-lived, so I sometimes struggled to be a real advocate of that industry. I didn't talk about it beyond the job that I had because I had never experienced co-living. I'd lived as a student with other people, but
that is co-living. They just jack it all up.
I know, but maybe the co-living that they were sort of promoting, I didn't experience myself, and I found it really hard to advocate that necessarily. I mean, I do advocate for it, but with co-working, it's just so easy because I love co-working and I feel it and I miss it. And one of my goals for after the wedding in July when I come back is to find to not even just put pressure on myself and find another co-working community. It's more I would like to just co-work more regularly and meet people. But it's tricky because now I'm finding that I'm it's more that I'm we're organizing it between friends. So, we are going, okay, where should we go? Let's meet here, that sort of thing. Whereas when, joined TownSq, it was so easy because that space and that community was already sort of there. I mean, the community as it grew over, let's say, a 2-year period. When I joined, and there was a few other people who joined after me, so that then formed this really tight community. But it started with the space. It started with you, Bernie, running events there, introducing us to Anna, and it just sort of grew from there basically.
There was this so that Weave Co-working, which is in Wigan, and I keep on saying that it's this space we're working with at the moment. And I was talking with Anthony and Wayne and Lee, who are the marketing team and the sales team there, and they just get people to get. They sort of go, "Oh, do you want to come here and we'll get together and work?" And there's a pub called the Three Mills, which is underneath where the co-working space is going to be, and people just show up. And they're like, "Oh, do we need to do it?" It's just the fact people want to show up is 80% of the battle. People just want to be around them. Yeah. And I say this thing, which is it's a little bit too cute because and I love it, but there's so many co-working spaces looking for a community, and now that Wigan group of people is a community looking for a co-working space, which is coming, but the magic is already there. It's not like you have to get this space and make it cool for people to show up. The connection is existing already, and that's so valuable. And I think people, sometimes when you have that connection, you don't realize it's there because it's just part of what you do.
Yeah, that's a really good point actually, because it's can you really build it? If somebody starts a space from scratch and you really want to attract a certain customer, will they come, or is it it's just luck? The right dynamics of the right sort of people come in and then they start bonding, and how do they bond as well, which is something that I've really fascinated in when I did because I did a master's in interior design, but it was almost it was about co-designing and kind of, how do we design spaces to meet people's needs? That sort of thing around like, well, how is it that people bond because they actually have these sort of shared experiences at that one time? So like almost like we became co-workers or colleagues, we weren't actually working for the same company, but like the fact that we had a lot of overlap in what we were doing. We lived in London, like, I don't know what it was, but it's something that brought us together at that point in time. And I don't know if you can force it, essentially.
I think it's...
You can't, I don't think.
You can't, but like everything is unique and different and stuff like this. And when people go like, how you said that some places you go, the person feels like it's just their job. And I think it's not even a thing, like from my experience, and I, hang my hat on this, is if this is where it feels like restaurants. So I've worked for restaurants where there's like one restaurant and the guy or the girl that owns it works in it, and there's this like epic atmosphere, and quite often it's a little bit too stressful, but everyone's connected, and it's probably not as sustainable as you would like it to be, but it works because everything is so intimate and connected. And then I've worked for chain restaurants, and everything's very organized and efficient and everything, but it's like detached. I know, say Lucy starts a restaurant and then it becomes like Lucy's chain of restaurants. The feeling is fragmented. And I think there's loads of people that be like, oh no, you can scale it and everything like that. But like, I wouldn't say you can't scale it, but like the kind of connection and intimacy I enjoy in a restaurant, in a community, in a co-working space doesn't scale.
No, that's the thing. That is, because it's like once it gets too big, then there's too many people in your orbit. And there's this whole thing around like the 15 is like there's like you have 5. It's Dunbar's number theory, which is
150.
Yes, total. But you have 5 really close friends or connections, and then you have 15 friends, like close friends. Beyond that, it's really hard. And it's true, because it's like I always think about this now because I'm a real people pleaser, and like when I want to sort of see more friends or like have more people in my orbit, I really struggle and I let people down because I'm like, oh yeah, let's do this, this and this. And then I never sort of reach out and sort it out, or I have to flake because I have my close-knit group, and it's like hard to, and it is because of what he's saying. I think I'm using that as an excuse maybe, but it's like you can't really have more than like 20 people who you're close to, because beyond that, and it becomes unmanageable. Like how do you form actual connections? Maybe it's because I like to form deep connections with people that I just can't cope with more than 20 people. But in any sort of group, it's hard. There's an unbalance and people get a bit unhappy and things like that. So this is why the smaller spaces are fantastic, because they really get community and they really nurture that. And often the person who's at the helm is like a really cool part of that community as well, and has done it extremely well. But it's whether you can stick at that, because any change in dynamics changes things. As we know with TownSq, Anna leaving, that then changes. It completely changes the dynamic of
it. It was like Peter Gabriel leaving Genesis. If you get that reference.
Yeah.
There's, if someone comes to me, and they never do, but like if someone comes to me and says we've got a 300-seater co-working space, I just don't want to get involved, because I believe like less than 150 people is the best place to be. And there's certain things about how profitable it will be per seat and everything like that. And you have to have a certain capacity and turnover and for it to actually make money. But anything more than 150, I can't do anything. That's why I don't go to big events. Like
Right.
I could probably go to a rock concert and enjoy it, but if there's more than 150 people in a room, I just spontaneously combust. And part of it is because I want to say hello to everybody.
Yeah.
And when I came back from the workspace design show, I loved it, and I got to see loads of people. But there was more people at that event than I knew. There's more people at that event than I knew were going to be there, and I was like ill at the end of it because I just said I met so many people and caught up with so many people, and I loved it, but it knocked me out.
Right. So that's a really good point. Like your social battery, which is something that I also experience when I'm around people for a long time, especially people I don't know super well. And I'm like, obviously want to chat to everyone and, get to know people, but it can be really, especially when I first moved to London, I would get like migraines after going to networking events because I was just so like exhausted after, or like unwell. Yeah, like you, like really unwell after going to social thing. I'm less like that now. I think I'm also more intentional in what I'm going to rather than just trying to go to everything and who I want to see as well.
I know. Can you tell us a little bit about the Substack and Inclusive Coworker before we go? Because I was going to ask you a question about that, but I forgot. But I want to make sure people know.
Yeah.
They could link in the show notes and everything like that. But it is like great writing, great people, and I'm going to track you all listening to this down and see if you click the link and go and read. But what is it? What is it about, and where did it come from?
Well, the Inclusive Coworker is an evolution, I guess, of some of the things that I've been doing in the industry over the last few years. So I've been asked to be on panels to talk about like neurodiversity and co-working and DEI, like designing spaces for women in co-working as well. And all of a sudden, like I think this was that a couple of years ago, the name, the Inclusive Coworker just came to me like one day. And I just thought I have to like go and buy the domain right now. And then it wasn't until last summer that I launched the Substack because I felt that I needed to have a sort of platform where I could write stuff because that is sort of what I love doing. Right, I love writing, but also what I'm sort of known for as well. So it felt like the right kind of place for that. And I like the values of the people on Substack as well. I did have a little newsletter at one point as well through MailChimp, but it just felt like it's a bit of a salesy platform, MailChimp, so it didn't feel right. And then even just trying to put some of that content onto my website, it was just, I'm not the most technically minded, so it didn't really work for me. But yeah, essentially the Inclusive Coworker celebrates the community first nature of the co-working industry. I write my own thoughts around things that I'm experiencing in co-working and sort of the conversations that are happening and sort of takeaways from sessions that are happening at like Juicy and things like that. But also I am interviewing community builders and co-working owners and operators for my People Make Co-working series, which is just a kind of chat with somebody who's running their own space about their journey, which is often super, super interesting and sort of shows that they've sort of serving a particular customer or audience or person. And that seems to be kind of resonating with other community builders at the moment. So I'm really interested to see where that goes. There's quite a lot of like, work in terms of editing the pieces and the back and forth, but like I feel that there's something brewing and I'm just gonna keep going and writing content essentially on this platform.
It's Ace, you're really underselling yourself here. Like it's like the Atlantic for co-working. It's
thank you.
And the people you've chosen have been at it a very long time.
Oh my gosh, it's interesting to see that because I always say this to people. It's like I have entered the industry post-COVID. Like I entered it, when it was that sort of time where, co-working spaces were just sort of coming out on the other side. Whereas these people, I spoke to Claire Carpenter, who opened one of Europe's first co-working spaces, the Mountain.
2006.
Yeah, so she's like early days, and a lot of these people as well are early days. They didn't even know what co-working was, or like had come across like a very early space as well, or like a person like Justin talks about Tony from the New Work Cities. That's it. I'm not trying to say the other name. And they're so early doors, but like they've been at it from the very beginning, and that is so fascinating. And they get it. They get what co-working is. They get community, and they're serving these really, really cool communities and localities as well. So I really admire the work that they're doing.
That was the first time I saw co-working online. I joined meetup.com in August 2008, just as I joined Twitter.
Yeah.
And I was like looking around, and I ran a networking group, and I was just like, I probably spent like 3 hours clicking through meetup.com, and I came over this guy called Tony Bacigalupi, mayor of NYC. I was like, oh wow, that's cool. And it was the New Work Cities meetup.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
And I looked at it, and I'd never seen the word co-working before.
Right.
And I just understood it immediately.
Yeah. And the rest is history.
And the rest is history. And we actually had a chance to. Have you met Debs at one of my events? I think you have. She's a copywriter and does
yeah, I've spoken about her. Yes.
Yeah. So her mate had a basement in King's Cross. They wouldn't have made a very nice co-working space, but it was basically like a very huge dining room with one window. And we could have rented it for not very much money. And then we could have just done what you're doing, like got around a table. Like it wouldn't have worked in retrospect, but we could have opened like Bernie and Debbie's co-working room, and it would have been one of the first co-working spaces in London. But luckily we didn't sign a lease on that. But it was the fear of the real estate deal that put me off.
Interesting.
If only. So where can we go and find you online?
I am very on it with LinkedIn, so please follow me on LinkedIn or check out my Substack, the inclusivecoworker.substack.com.
We will. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I feel like Hector. Just keep doing what you're doing. It's great, Lucy. But it's lovely reading your work. It's lovely the way you keep unearthing these stories and narratives about our very important industry and that intersection of design and inclusivity. And folks, we love the show notes. We'll show you how to get in contact with Lucy there and point to her. She's on Substack, so we'll connect to her on there. And there's the massive LinkedIn group. And we're going to start talking about European Co-working Day 2026 now, because it seemed a bit of a surprise to some people when we talked about it. So we go a year ahead. And also there's one other huge thing which I've forgotten. But yes, Unreasonable Connection is our monthly online get together, and it is just people, 3 to 4 people who run a co-working space in a room chatting to each other, totally private, no sponsors, no pictures, and no anything. And wherever you are in the world today, be careful out there. It is a jungle.